It's time to discuss the 2018 film Acrimony.
Y'all, so much happened in that movie, and it'll just leave your jaw dropped.
Just when you thought a Tyler Perry storyline couldn't get any crazier,
Acrimony has entered the chat. Time for a rundown of this film.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App or click the thanks button on this video, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia or become a channel member by clicking the join button to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. Y'all, Acrimony was so wild, but we had actually done a video a while ago on Acrimony, just talking about the definition and overview. You can find it on our other channel, Axiom Amnesia. I'll link it in the description. But this is yet another Tyler Perry movie. So let's just get into what happened in this film. We'll go along. There will be some heavy spoilers if you haven't seen the film, so just know that. So when the film opens, we see Taraji P. Henson. She's in court and she's looking really upset, right? And basically, she's on the losing side of things. And so then when next time we see her in with a therapist. And she's basically talking about being disgruntled. So clearly there's a situation where she has an ex, and then her ex has a new woman, and she's by herself and she's not happy. And it looks like maybe they're fighting over money. And as this story begins to unfold, as she's telling this story to the therapist, she feels like she's been done wrong. And she says that this man owes her every breath in his body. And then she goes into the story of how they met, but not before she calls the therapist a B. She just says that about herself before she goes into this story, that she was strong when he needed her to be strong. She was weak when he needed her to be, and just ultimately she was pathetic, right? So she clearly feels bad about herself. And then, she starts to tell her story of injustice. She goes on and they basically meet in college, and they ran into each other in the rain and whatever. And what was funny about the scene when they ran into each other is that he hit her, she drops her books, and then when she stands up or whatever, she literally starts to beat him and hit him. Like, who does this to a stranger?
I don't know. I guess it was to say that she thought it was his fault, but even if it is, yeah, that's wild.
Like a weird that you would just start to physically assault someone. So, the inklings that she ain't wrapped too tight are already starting to show, right? And so as she's telling the story, she talks about how her sisters were definitely perceived as smarter than her. And, her mother had sent them to school and sent her to school, and she's the youngest, right? And her sisters, they all have husbands / fiancés at this point. And, she's still just in college and she's single. The next thing we know, her mother has passed away or whatever. So this mysterious guy who she meets is Robert, right? And her name is Melinda. And so he basically comes to try to support her. This is way back in college. After her mother has died and they're all at the house, he comes, and in order to come visit her, like, he had to walk a long way, and he had to take a train, and so like he really must have wanted to see her. And so she talks about how he made her feel safe and strong and all of that. So he takes her back to his, little trailer or whatever, because she gives him a ride home. And, that's when they hook up, right? But as the story is being told and they're hooking up, she says that he made her feel safe, strong, beautiful, and that he took advantage of her grief. Was there any part of this man that was who she saw him as, in terms of him being terrible? Or was he just normal and we're just looking at this story being told through the eyes of somebody who ain't wrapped too tight?
Yeah, but I got to know why he was there.
Because he liked her and he came to support her. That's what I thought.
Oh, and to go and support somebody in a moment like that, somebody you don't even know, is very weird. And to even invite them to even do that is weird. So
they hook up or whatever, but she talks about that she was young, but he has her heart, her mind, and then he got her virginity on top of that, right? So she feels like a victim of like he was some type of, con artist, charlatan type or whatever. But she chased him like when he was going to leave the funeral or whatever. She chased him. Now, the other thing that was this dynamic that was going on is the sisters were being very like, I don't know, acting like they were too good. They never liked him from the beginning, even when they met him and saw him. And one sister even brought like her ex-boyfriend who was at I guess it was like the repast or whatever, meeting at the house after the funeral, and was like, this is her boyfriend. And, to try to get this guy, Robert, away from her. So that's another dynamic that we see going on. So her sisters clearly do not like him. And when they find out that they're dating, then they really don't like that. And they're like, well, who's paying when y'all go out since he's poor? And they tell her, do not tell Robert about your $350,000 inheritance and the house from mama, because, when the mother dies, she gets $350,000 and this nice house, right? Of course, she didn't already tell Robert.
Yeah, but he's a college student. Like, I don't know if I don't know how that works. Basically, to say maybe her sisters didn't know that college students are just broke anyway, right? So why is that a question? Or did you actually, if they're so worried about this house, do you really come from that class to say that, all right, now we got to protect it from people who are in college who don't have money in college on top of that? Right, because that would separate the classes. If you in college and you got money and stuff, you know what I'm saying? You're probably doing all right.
Yeah. So, but Robert is a man with an idea. He has this idea for this battery and he's trying to sell it, wants to sell his invention or whatever. So he's working on this battery. He's worked on it in college and whatever. But he does, they start dating and he does tell her like, you're going to be my wife. And, she makes the statement as she's talking to her therapist that she basically just didn't see the con man for the con. So she's saying from the beginning, he was just trying to take her for a ride. And, I don't know. It's kind of weird because, as they say, two things can be true at once. He could be an opportunist or maybe even a con man. But at the same time, she also could be just crazy.
Bruh, that's a hell of a con. All right. So people's perspective of money and what is a lot of money, right, changes from person to person. So that's subjective, right? But to get in a relationship with somebody, marry them and all this, and that's a very long con for possibly getting $300,000.
Yeah, $300,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but when you don't have anything, and maybe. And I'm not saying that whether I believe he was a con or not yet, but maybe though it's we see things like this with the men who want that soft life, right? They don't really want to have to work too hard, so then they compromise their what would normally be their standards in terms of, where they might live, who they might be with, all that stuff, right? So that they just don't have to do much and everything's taken care of. Not that that's who he was, but, we do.
He had an idea, right? So he had big dreams that he knew would possibly bring in a lot of money, right? But he also happened to have some land, a trailer as this college student too, getting back to what someone has, right? And maybe it's Tyler Perry, right?
I don't think he had land though.
Well, he
was like in somebody's front yard.
They let him put it on the land, so you don't have to pay for that land, I guess, right? For the most part,
maybe, yeah.
So then I think this is just Tyler Perry to, have the contrast, right? Oh, this is some people who may have money and this is somebody who lives in a trailer. But it shouldn't matter because he is a college student and that just changes the whole financial outlook for that person in that moment.
Yeah, I think it and it's going to change it if they're finishing it, at least the way our society the dream is that it will change it after.
Right.
So that even if you're poor going into it, if you finish college and you have a degree in a desired field, then, you're going to be all right.
And in college, it's not like your living expenses and that sort or your living arrangements are paid for, right? So if he has this trailer and everything that's basically paid for, then he is in a better financial position right? Even after he graduates and in the moment, right? If you don't have to take those loans or whatever to pay for your housing in college.
That's true.
But he may just have those bills though too that other people won't have.
And so then we get to the point where, you know, they're together and whatever. And she makes this a point, and I think this is important. She says that he didn't ask, but he had a way of suggesting things, right? And so she buys him this car. And now, mind you, they're not married yet or anything like that. They're just dating, and she buys him a car. So basically, he presented himself as needy, right? Or he just legit was needy in from her eyes. But she felt that this was a suggestion that she ought to buy him a car. And man, you know, that made me think, because there's an aspect of that as a con, right? It might not be the person's intention, but it's kind of like, you know, if you're hungry, you go sit next to somebody who's eating and then you just look sad.
So that's why he walked all the way to the funeral.
Now,
to
I'm
the
not
repast.
saying that that's
no,
what
but
he
I'm
did,
saying if
but,
it's a con, then that would be the reason that he done it, because if this
maybe
is long
it wasn't
and drawn
the long
out,
con. Maybe it was just in moments like, you know, there's a difference to me in being an opportunist and a con artist. The opportunist is like, okay, I see an opportunity. She might be buying me a car. I'm going to let her. Let me just let her know what my need is.
It's a difference in what you think and what this character thinks too.
That's true.
So if she is explaining that he is a con and everything, then you have to think back and be like, he walked all the way over there for me to, you know, feel some sympathy and give him a ride and know that he don't have a car. And other times he doesn't have a car and he's walking around and taking a bus, which is his way of manipulating me into buying him a car.
Well, some people in the comments would think that right now, maybe he said, I'm, as far as this con, if that's what he was doing, that he said, look, I'm going to get me a car. And how I'm going to get me a car is to seem noble or appear willing to go the extra mile. Right. And then that person is not going to be suspecting. And then I'm going to get them to buy me a car. But anyway, the bottom line is she winds up buying him a car. And then she's like, after the car, he stopped calling as much. You know, he wasn't communicating as much.
When you get the car, then you have the opportunity to ride around and get hoes. That's before, when he's walking around, it's harder to get them hoes. So when you bought that car, you unleashed the beast. And then she found him attractive or something, right? So once the car come into a picture, then his stock would probably double.
Yeah. So now that, you know, more women are interested in him because he got a ride. And
I don't have to take you to the dorm room.
And let's just keep it real. Like, when you're in college, the person who has the car automatically has, you know, because everybody doesn't have a car. So if you have a car in college, like, your stock is higher. I don't care who you are. I don't mean just dating stock. Like, you're going to have more friends. You're going to have more people who want to be around you, because a car is a very nice thing to have when you're in college, because you can get around, you can go places and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember my homie had a car, man. We used to get up in that thing and go to pool halls and stuff, because we used to play pool all the time. And you know, I had an apartment, so you know, it was just a bunch of foolishness going on, right? They would just show up in the car and then like, let's go, and like, wait, what? There ain't time to go.
And but yet somehow you would gather your things and then wind up heading out the door. But so her sisters then announced, because the sisters and their husbands and / the fiancés, whatever they all are living at this house, the mother's house, along with Melinda. And so they announced, hey, you know, we're married now. We're going to be getting our own house. We're moving out. And you, Melinda, need to get yourself a job so you can keep up the house. Right. Now, this is also important, because let's talk about how different people think. A lot of people would be like, oh, Melinda, you got $350,000. What do you need? And maybe you don't have that much because you did buy the car. But let's say you still got $3,000 left. Okay, you got $3,000. What in the world do you need with a job when you got that? The job, you know, that can keep up the house in the meantime. But the worst absolute thing you can do when you get a lump sum of money is use that money for living expenses.
So a pension office.
I know, because then you're going to wind up 5 years from there with nothing to show. You know, when you got a lump sum, either save it or invest it. Preferably investing it is tends to be the better option. But at a minimum, save it. That's not money you dipping into and spending. And if you do spend it, you should be spending it on, well, in her case, she already had a house, but like things like buying a house, not a car, right? Which is going to depreciate really fast, but buying a house. Or maybe you know, are like, oh, I'm going to buy a business or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't start being like, well, rent is paid for the next 6 months. You know, that's not what you do in this circumstance.
Yeah. And to buy anybody a car, they spent like 7% of her money.
Ridiculous.
On a car for somebody else.
And this is maybe where she should have like listened to her sisters, even though I think her sisters were very judgmental. I think her sisters would have definitely been against, you know, this is why they told her to get a job. They didn't say spend mama's $350,000 toward keeping the house up. They said, get yourself a job so you can keep it up, right? Because the point is, your mama worked her whole life to pay off that house and to have the money to give you when you, you know, when she was gone. So you don't want to just blow that on just anything. So she decides to call him. Now, she done bought this car. He ain't around as much. He's getting off the phone all quick. And so she decides that she is going to go over to his house. Now, ladies, y'all go to the comments and tell us the stories, because I know most women have a story of where something had told them, or they just decided to ride by, or unsuspectingly they realized that, you know, things ain't like you think they are, and they decide they're gonna roll over to the dude's house.
And she just got lucky when she went over there. She saw that somebody had their hands in the window.
That was just so over the top. Tyler Perry can't just give you the subtle hint.
Bruh,
like, you got to see.
Every time I watch Tyler Perry, I'm just thinking, yes, the king of subtlety. This is him.
But what's funny is I'm always looking too, because he snags little things from movies here and there. And one of the things he snagged was the hand in the window or whatever. Like that reminds me of Titanic, when, you know, Rose and Jack are getting it on in that car, and then it's all steamy and you see the hand hit the window and like slide down. That's basically what you saw.
Yeah, but
here.
it wasn't romantic at all here, because it was somebody getting smashed from the back in a cheating situation.
You know what I'm saying? So she rolls over there. But tell us your stories of when you rolled up on, you know, your ex or whoever it is, and whatever in the comments, because I'm just interested in hearing those.
So was she a physics major? I know he was about like mechanical engineering, which was weird.
You know, y'all go to the comments and tell us, do y'all know what major she was? Because I don't remember, honestly.
She got real pissed off, and she basically launched her car into the trailer.
Look.
To flip the trailer over. So I'm thinking she's done some calculations real quick to see.
She say, if I hit it right here. No, she was just that crazy. So so she has this Jeep, and she just starts ramming this little trailer with the Jeep. And if it wasn't a movie, it wouldn't be funny. But like, this is next level crazy. So she flips the trailer, and then here he comes out.
How come they didn't get out? Because it took her a couple times to flip the thing.
I don't know, because you naked. You don't know what's going on.
Man, that first hit, I'm looking, okay, time for me to get on up out of here. But she probably would have hit him or them.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she definitely would have. So, you know, so this trailer, so, you know, she knocks it, he comes out, and she sees that he's there with another woman, you know, and so in this whole accident, and like in this accident, like she makes this is not just a little tap on this trailer. Like she acts like she's just going into a head-on collision with the trailer. Like her rage, she just couldn't control her rage or whatever.
And even though he was cheating, that was his sign.
Yeah.
But this where it makes you think like, okay, he got a plan.
Yes. So, you know, so the girl he's with is like, Robert, you ain't tell me that you had a girlfriend. Like, what? You got me wrapped up. And that's the other thing, is that people telling you only part of the story, you know, could get you wrapped up in something. The girl didn't even know, the side chick didn't even know she was a side chick, if you will. But the question is, Robert had said to her that he was going to marry her. You going to be my wife. This is what he told Melinda. But maybe did they have an established relationship, or was you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, was he actually the boyfriend, or did you know how some people will imply things, but it ain't been established?
If somebody
would
buy
you
you
still
a car,
dishonest?
then that's for you.
That better be your man.
I own you if I buy you a car.
Shut up. So, but yeah, so I don't think it was unreasonable for her to assume that this is her boyfriend, even if he was trying to play games with the wording or whatever. And so, so he comes out, and so the girl is upset because she's like, you ain't tell me this. So she getting out of there real with the quickness. And then, he's trying to console Melinda, and, Melinda's mad. But before they can really have a reconciliation or a fight or whatever, Melinda done passed out because she done internally injured herself. Because this Tyler Perry. So she done internally injured herself ramming this Jeep into the trailer. So then we see the hospital scene where she's there, and we don't know if she's going to survive her internal injuries. Come to find out, they done had to do like a hysterectomy on her because of her internal bleeding, but she's going to survive. But her sisters are at the hospital. And if her sisters did not hate him before, oh, they hate him now because, hysterectomy, obviously she's not going to be able to have children in the future. He has ruined her life, not just, whatever, in the eyes of the sister. Not just for him, but for any future man and having a family and all that. So after everything happens, she's back at home recuperating and whatever. And Robert comes and he wants to talk to her, but her sisters are like gatekeeping. They like, you ain't coming in to talk to him and all that. I mean, you ain't coming in to talk to her. But she's like, no, go ahead and let him talk to me. So he says that he loves Melinda, that he is sorry. They get back together.
So why did they blame him for her ramming the car into the trailer? Because that's why she's in the hospital. It's like they are blaming the victim. But then I guess it's your perspective now. Who really is the victim? Because for people like Melinda, then I'm the victim because I got cheated on. And what I do after, it's the fault of the other person because I'm the victim here.
Oh, that's such a gray area because I tend to believe like, she was the victim of his at a minimum of his misleading behavior and cheating.
Oh, but what we don't get, and maybe we're going to get it in the prequel, but I don't know. But anyway, is this the moment that flipped, right? Because, a lot of mental illness comes from trauma, and maybe this was in conjunction with her mother passing, and then the only person she trusted, who she confided in, gave it up to and everything, betrayed her. Yeah. Was that the moment where, she really turned into what we've seen later in the movie?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. It just seemed like she was always crazy, her or showed signs, right? Because her sisters were like, how she can't, control herself when she get mad kind of thing. And they just accepted that. And
is that what they said in the hospital?
I don't remember exactly when they said it, but they say it in the movie, that basically she had a history of wilding out like this. And so this is where I'm like, okay, time for a public service announcement. For us, our people, we be knowing that folk got issues and been knowing it. And then we just let them go up out in the world, unleash them on the world. And then we think that the world is going to have the level of grace that we do with them acting a fool. And whether they can help it or not. Let me just be clear. Because if she, like in her case, I don't think she can help it. Eventually the therapist diagnoses her and stuff. So she had a legitimate mental illness, right? But for people who just like to act wild, you're like, I be knowing that the family, cousin so-and-so and so-and-so.
Part of it is undiagnosed, right? Because of part of it is class, and especially, years ago, you weren't able to get into therapists and stuff like that.
That's
or
true.
Psychiatrists to get diagnosed, right? So then and us not wanting to go and do that, right? So then you get people who go undiagnosed, and a lot of us are like that. Then we don't recognize it, and just because of the way of the culture, we don't recognize it. That it isn't till much later, decades later, where we're starting to find out, oh, these people have had issues for so long that were undiagnosed, untreated, and so forth.
Yeah, and I just think this is good. We're having the conversation in 2024 because it's, in issues mentally on any level, whether it's depression or whatever is going on, like all of us know people, right? So it's 2024. If you got family members who got these kind of things going on, it's okay that we encourage our family members, or even ourselves, if we're the ones, to get a little bit of help, and just see what's going on. I know there's stigma and everything else, but at the end of the day, that could help to help improve their quality of life, right? Because it's turbulent.
And without us being educated, people go out there, right? And we don't even know that something is going on with them, because we see it as, we're like looking at, I guess sort of like, at what level is this at, right? How erratic is the person is when we deem them, with a stigma to it, right? Oh, they just crazy, or that person is off and all of that, right? Even though other people who have a lesser degree of it, or it appears to outwardly show at a lesser degree, we just see that kind of as normal. They just have this going on, they respond this way, and you know what I'm saying? Because we don't know that it's some actual issues going on.
And I just think that it's good, because the other part is, they trip every once in a while, but they not that bad. But see, you never know how far a person is going to go. You never know when the big one is going to hit,
and you
right?
might get points too. You'd be like, I go off. You know what I'm saying?
That's a huge part of the culture, right?
I don't play. I whoop ass at any moment. I'm ready.
I'm always ready. Like we know our culture. We know our people, and not everybody who acts this, who talks like that has a mental illness. But I would say that there are a lot of people who, when you see them acting like this, something else is going on, and let us try to get the help that we need.
Another movie, like probably Debo has something going on.
Debo probably has something going.
And it's funny Friday, though, like sometimes to observe, but to just know that this is some issues going on. It is important at the same time.
Yes. So when Robert finally comes in and talks to Melinda, then, basically he wins her back and they move forward. They're still in college or whatever. And at this point, he determines that he doesn't have his last 2 semesters of school, the money. So he gonna need some cash.
Bruh, you better get a loan. Like, what? How hard is this?
That's what I'm saying. But
it's always Tyler Perry, though. People ain't getting them loans that they should be getting.
They say the interest on the loans is too high, so I'm gonna just ask you for the money. But Robert needs some cash, and it makes you wonder: did Robert come back? Did he come back to beg, for forgiveness so he can get some cash? Because Robert knew by now, if you done rammed, his house, his little trailer, to the point that you almost killed your own self, you ain't all together. But he comes back. Was his love that strong? I don't know. Because if his love for her at this point was really that strong, he probably wouldn't have been in the trailer and ignoring her. But we need to have a sidebar about this, because one of the observations I've made, as we've watched all of these different and read about the lives of inventors throughout the years, George Washington Carver, Oppenheimer, Tesla, all these people, right, who were these men who were inventors. They didn't have, Oppenheimer had a woman, but they didn't have steady women in their lives, most of them. And what I wonder is it that they were just so enthralled with their inventions and those things that they just couldn't obligate themselves to maintaining a romantic relationship beyond perhaps just, whatever.
Yeah, it takes time, right? Because if it's like, what woman is going to sit around and wait for you to be finished with just this thing, just this one little thing? But this one little thing might take you about 4-5 months to get to whatever you're trying to get to.
We're like, we can go out to dinner in 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, but I'm just on the cusp of this breakthrough.
Yeah, that's one, and that might be why they call them mad scientists on some level, right? Because
is that what drives them mad? You might.
It could be what drives them mad.
We need a public certain. Never mind.
But I do think that they are in the position where it takes such a singular focus that a lot of times they cannot, focus in other ways.
I think that's what I do from time to time.
You
right?
do. I was going to say that, but I was going to let you say it.
Even when I was a kid, you probably talk to people and they tell you I was just on the computer. And that's what I did.
Yes.
I'm staying there because I'm figuring things out and it's going to take a while. And don't disturb me because it's going to get my thought process off track.
Well, I would say that if a woman who has a lot of social interaction needs in that respect, it would be kind of tough. But luckily, we're similar in that way. Less about, okay, so just a little bit of background. So y'all know that, how would you characterize yourself? I often say, a web developer, but you really are like, you're like an inventor, because when I tell y'all, I'll sit here and I'll be like, sure would be nice if when I pull this up, this could happen, and it would happen automatically, as we're trying to do our background stuff of editing and production. And, we have an entire company outside of what we do here on YouTube. So next thing you know, he sits there, I would say locks himself away, but we share an office space, but, locks himself away, if you will. He's quiet for a while. And then the next thing you know, he's like, boom, here's this thing that is what you talked about. Like, it's the most amazing thing in the world. But the price is that it takes him time to create these things, and it takes an interruption, which is fine for me because, I tend to also be the person that when I'm getting into what I'm getting into, then I'm focused and I don't want to be doing a bunch of yip yapping too. Probably when we talk here on about these videos, this is probably the most that as individuals that we just sit up and, we have conversations and we're physically together all the time. But I think it's just that we're comfortable having our own individual pursuits and, and that's nice.
Yeah. So my first time I could think back to is like when I was a kid. So nowadays, when you do music and stuff, there's these programs and everything that everybody have. Back in the day, the common consumer couldn't have these programs and stuff. So I had to come up with methods and ways to do that, and how to DJ, how to record music and make songs, and how to produce music on the simple tools that were basically free because I ain't have no money to pay for nothing on old computer. What are old computers now, right? That ain't as powerful. And I had to try to figure those things out. And I spent a lot of time doing that, trying to figure out how music is made. I can't just go to the internet at that time and search, hey, how do you mix a song to make it sound good? All that stuff. I just had to figure out I had to reinvent the wheel, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's how, and it took a lot of time. I can't just be going out and partying and wasting my time talking on the phone to girls all the time.
But
right?
What's funny is how, when you look at your youth and whatever, like you had friends and you were social. I had friends. I was social. But we always, for our whole life, had things like I was an avid reader. I was always reading. And so that's what I spent all of my alone time doing. And I made time to do that. And, other pursuits, learning about things and so on. And I think it's just that I don't know if that developed the personality or if my personality was that way and that's why I like doing it. But either way, we both love our solitude. But it's interesting because it's not physical solitude because we're together 100% of the time practically, right? We're physically in the same space, but we're doing our own thing and we're good with that,
Yeah.
But anyway.
So with that said, everything you see and hear over here that we're doing, that's all us.
Yes.
From years of this
learning to do
loneliness of solitude. That's
not loneliness. Word. Yeah, loneliness is a lack type of a situation. Solitude is just, it is what it is. It's not a value judgment. So we're here. He's convinced her to come back to him, and he needs tuition to be paid for. He needs 2 semesters of his tuition paid for. And I'm just like, again, why aren't you taking a student loan again? Explain that to me.
Yeah. So why you need 2? You live semester to semester. What you talking about?
So she went up there with her little checkbook and she then pinched off the $350K some more. And So he also proposes, and he's like, this is a temporary ring, and you're going to get your real ring and whatever, your forever ring later when we can afford it. And
that's romantic. It really is, but well, nowadays it's not.
Yeah, I think, okay, at that point in your life, you're not even expected to have anything. So how are you going to afford a big ring? The people... You
better come from money.
That's the only way you're going to afford it. Or if you got a ring that was passed down from the family, through the family, and you're like, this was my grandmother's wedding ring, and now it's going to be your, unless you had a situation like that, but he didn't appear to have no family or anybody. So that wasn't going to happen. So, he proposes with a temporary ring. I saw somebody online making fun of folks. Somebody had gotten proposed to with, they called it like this Walmart cheap ring or whatever. And I'm just like, y'all are just out of bounds, because guess what? So what if it's a Walmart cheap ring? He's offering to marry her, and she wants to marry him. Why y'all raining on folks' parade and stuff? Yeah. And the fact is, especially if they're younger, you ain't got money like that. What's so wrong with that? You get your butt off your back. So yeah, you got your butt on your back, and then got the nerve to be talking about somebody else's ring. Now, if you 40 or 50 or whatever, you ought to have at least a little bit of something, but still the how much is spent on the ring. Well, we're not going to give a lesson on
bougie etiquette.
Yes, we're not giving a lesson on that, but I'll just say, all right, so we know that the rule of thumb in the past was, a certain number of months of the man's salary was what it was supposed to be spent on the ring. The purpose was so that the woman, but way back in the day when people cared about getting married, so that the woman wasn't, like, if you call it, ruined by a man who might not marry her after he made the promise, right?
So then she keep the ring?
She keeps the ring for the money, the value, right? It's like putting something on it financially.
A dowry.
And it keeps people who are not serious from presenting themselves, because you got to have that money up front to,
You got to be able to save, and you got to be not poor to get married.
Basically. Or you can do what's also reasonable and just going down to the courthouse, and you ain't got to do all that fanfare. But that's the deal. So her sisters are pissed off and they're opposed to the marriage when they find out, but she did go ahead and marry him, and her sisters did not show up. What do you think about, like, the notion of, getting married and people in your family not showing up if you want them to be there?
If you want them there, but it's your sister, so the decision they make, right? So it's kind of like, shunning your family member, I guess. But yeah.
I think that's like one of the crappiest things you could do to somebody is,
especially on a day, y'all might not think of it like that now, but one of the biggest days of your life is the day that you get married, and your family isn't even there to at least be like, we support you. Even when we believe you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
Because marrying somebody can't be the worst thing that you can do, right? They showed up when she rammed the house with a car, so just a marriage isn't worse than that.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is they would have showed up if it was like, he got her knocked up and left. They'd have showed up for her then, right? But she got married and they didn't like it, the guy, so they're like, we're not showing up. And then the fact that I always thought it was a little uneven too, and it always will be whenever there are three people, because her sisters felt like 2 against 1. You know what I mean? It was like they double teamed her is what it felt like.
Yeah.
They get married and everything like that. And as the money started getting low, because he always needed something else, she always needed something. And basically they were living. He didn't go out and get a job. He was still trying to work his invention. And so the money would get low. His affections and his tolerance for her started getting low too. And so she comes to him and confronts him. She's like, look, this bank account is low. And he's like, okay, baby, I'm gonna get a job, even though it'll be hard to work and do this and finish school. I'm gonna get a job. So now you were laying the guilt trip out.
It probably was partially unrealistic for him to be in that situation, because if you figured out this technology early, but if it's ongoing, right? then at what point do we have something that's valuable for him to go out and make money off of, right? This invention of this battery. But I think they try to present it as he has the technology already and this thing is working. So there isn't much more that needs to be put into it besides presenting it to get the investment or whatever, how you're going to monetize this thing.
Yes.
But it's just ongoing forever improvements of it, I guess, to maybe keep in line with current technology. But if you're the only one who's able to do this, it doesn't matter if you're making it even better. You know, that at some point now it looks like you just don't want to be working because you could have, I know it costs. I'm inventing some. I got to buy stuff all the time. R&D is very expensive.
Yes.
Research and development is very expensive.
Yes.
So
what happens? Melinda went out. She got a job as an office assistant. And then she was also cleaning offices at night. Now, this is tough because now it's like, all right, she's working. She's not in school, right? She'd been and dropped out. She's working to support. Did she graduate? I don't think she graduated. Y'all go to the comments because I'm all confused.
She had to pay for him graduate.
She paid for him to graduate instead of
He
herself.
don't need to graduate if he's just going to be working on the battery all the time.
But so the bottom line is that she is now working 2 jobs to pay for him to be at home. So, you know, it's that dynamic because it's the perception that she doesn't work. I mean, that he doesn't work, number one, because she's getting up to go to work and he's still in the bed. And we talked about that in the past where it's like, you know, if he's up late nights and doing all of this working, because he's working in the house, it's not like he's out in the streets, then, you know, but people will judge you, right? If you don't do the traditional thing that looks like work from the outside, they will suggest that you don't work. I can't tell you how many people look at us and think we don't work because we work from home. I'm like, how you think bills get paid? But anyway, that's what happens. What do you think about her getting the 2 jobs?
It's do you support him? Do you believe in what he is working on, and will it result in actual money? Or if not, is it worth it for him, for y'all happiness, for him not to work on inventions? That's what it comes down to, you know? So if she needed a second job, that means they didn't have enough money. Then at what point does he stop working on it, right? But it has to be both of them come together to figure out. If she's like, okay, stop working on your stupid invention, then, then both people aren't sold on it, right? And you need to leave or you need to go get a job to help her so she don't have to have 2 jobs.
Yeah, because like the notion that she's carrying all that on her back just don't sit well with me. Like, I think that what has to happen when you're trying to get an invention, a business, anything off the ground is that it's all hands on deck and everybody has to be doing something. And he is doing something, but he can't be comfortable. You see what I'm saying? You comfortable doing what you comfortable doing and she's busting her hump with 2 jobs. That ain't really cool. Yeah. Now, you need to go work you a day job to bring in some money. And anybody, and I know in the comments tell us about it, but anybody who's ever gotten a business off of the ground where they didn't have people investing in them, where they invested their own money to make it happen, you know that is a grind when you're working your day job and when you're working your business. And there is that transition period where you darn near kill yourself trying to still have the money coming in as you wait for the money in your business, to start getting revenue through your business, right? Yeah. It's not easy. And
Axiom
it doesn't even always
was
happen.
Kind of like that. And it wasn't even really a business, right? It was
at that point,
working full time. And we did a daily podcast just for,
Yeah. This is back before
as the lead attorney would say, just for the love of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. This was before we were doing, movies and stuff. This was when we were doing more like social commentary and political commentary and,
And this wasn't activism. Like podcast now. We just get on and just start recording something. It was full on record, edit, and release. It wasn't no just recorded on YouTube or recorded on whatever platform. We
weren't going live. It was edited and then
we had to put out the MP3 files, have XMLs that sends out to the RSS feeds and stuff like that. That's what we did.
It was, I don't even know how we did it that long, but and how long ago this was we were covering at the height of it, the Trayvon Martin case.
Yeah,
and if you don't know about
trial.
and if you don't know about our interactions with that, go and watch the intro video on our channel, and it'll tell you all about it. But yeah, so, he's still at the house working. His invention, he's like, baby, I got it working. And he almost burned down the house, but he fried the wiring in the house trying to get this battery to work. And that was to the tune of $37,000.
Bruh.
To get the wiring together. So he graduated, and then he got turned down by 3 job interviews because he had a felony conviction at 15, but he was charged as an adult. Now, this is interesting because she didn't know this. He didn't tell her he had the felony conviction. So this was news to her, so this is another reason that she's adding on, like, okay, he's been conning me. Everything he did was the con.
What movie did we just watch where that was the case? Do you remember?
No.
I don't know. It was something, but that always happened in movies. Oh, I didn't know. It probably was another Tyler Perry movie. I didn't know you had a.
Oh yeah, it was another Tyler. Daddy's Little Girls. That's what it was.
Oh,
we were just watching that the other day, and he had a felony. She didn't know. That whole thing. So yeah, so she's upset about that, but it happened. He was underage, but there are so many things that this speaks to, which is like you had a felony conviction, 15 years old. You're charged as an adult. Like, I got so many problems with that whole thing.
Yeah.
But now he wants to mortgage the house.
He wants to mortgage the house for what?
Because they need money,
To do what?
To just keep on living off of the dumbest thing ever, and to get over the hump up, because it's not enough money. So to get over the hump of whatever time he needs to bring his battery to market and sell his invention, or not sell it, but
She married that man. That man is leading. And she went along with it, and they mortgaged the house.
She sure did mortgage that house, and she didn't want her sisters to know either. So she was resentful, though.
She say, I don't want them to know because you know how they are.
and you don't want them to know because you know how you are. But she was resentful because, again, she's working these 2 jobs and he's still laid up in the bed in the morning. But hey, Robert, though.
Wait, what movie was that in we just watched? Oh, Tyler Perry. It was the one with April.
Oh, yeah.
With Taraji P. Henson.
I can do bad all by myself.
I can do bad all by myself. Oh, she's still in bed.
Yeah,
come on, Tyler
she's
Perry,
lazy because she's sleeping in the daytime.
And he's lazy because, when she got to get up early and he don't.
Mm-hmm. So he's trying to get around. He hadn't gotten a job. And he runs into the chick that he was smashing in the trailer when she ran into it. And he's trying to get a meeting with this particular company to present his battery. So she just happens to be in a position, this woman just happens to be in a position of, influence where maybe she can help. And so he's like, well, can I take you for a coffee? And then she's like, if you bring your wife, and he's like, I don't cheat on my wife. Now, this is so funny because, you were the one, he cheated with you in the past. Like, this is legit the same
but
one.
But she didn't know.
Yeah, she didn't know. But my point is, it's speaking to his character. And he's like, oh, holier than thou. I don't cheat on my wife. Well, you was laid up, come on. Like, she knows firsthand you're a cheater, which is why she's like, if you bring your wife,
and he like, this is really business, this, my wife isn't, I guess, part of this business thing that I'm doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's understandable. I think y'all should go to the comments and let me know, is it understandable? Where he is doing his little invention thing, she's not involved, and he wants to set up a business meeting or do whatever networking in business like this. Should he bring his wife?
I don't think he should bring his wife for something unless the wife knows, you know what I'm saying, or is contributing in some way. But he can't bring her because she had her 2 jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
But when I'm not saying he should bring her for, like, if she has 0 to do with it.
Yeah.
Now, if she was just home all day, let's say she was a homemaker, then I could see that, because why shouldn't you be involved?
Yep. At the very least, he should tell his wife.
Oh, yeah.
But this is Tyler Perry, so he didn't. But yeah.
So then, when the woman gets upstairs and start, in the business, and they're like, oh, we know him because he's been trying to contact them for years or a long time about this battery, and they're calling him a psycho. And security basically calls him to let him know, don't come to the company, don't be contacting the people here, because you will be deemed a credible threat.
Bruh, that's unrealistic to me too. Because I think I guess it's not unrealistic. Maybe a company might get kind of tired of that, but I think it's expected for stuff like this to happen. You know?
Well, what about the idea that just they both crazy in their own way?
Both?
Well, she's clearly crazy.
Oh, you mean Melinda?
Melinda is clearly crazy, and then
Robert,
Robert.
No, he has a dream. Is it? Well, I guess so. All right. So a lot of people won't say it, they might be like, ooh, to have drive is admirable, right? A certain level of drive and to just annoy people. And I can't remember, maybe it was some rapper, maybe Gucci Man or somebody like that. And they would just sit outside the studio every day and just try to go in there with the people who's coming in and out. I can't remember. Somebody in the comments probably know who it is. It might just be, it takes a certain type of illness to be able to keep doing that and going through it, and especially with all the rejection and all that, right? Like all the time you keep going and banging your head up against this door, and then people keep telling you, no, bro, but I got so much drive and determination, and I believe in myself and believe in my work and believe in my invention that I'm gonna just keep doing this.
Yep.
And yeah. But some people may be like, no, there's nothing wrong with that.
I just think it depends, why, I don't know why, but what always pops into my mind is like the 45-year-old rapper or something like that. But you know what? There are people who don't get their break into their 40s. There are people who don't become famous or don't, they don't make it happen until later. And I mean, we see a lot of people who that's the case, maybe even if they're not in their 40s, they're late 30s. Like, in other words, it's not happening at 18 or 19 when they're all fresh and new to the game. So, we saw that with what's her name? Leslie Jones, the comedian. She was in her 40s. You look at other people who are in their 40s when I'm making it. I think back in the day, what's her name? The singer, the country singer, Bonnie Raitt. She was older when she finally made it. So it can happen, but the longer you go, the less likely it is.
That's
and then you got to figure out,
in this movie.
When it's time to throw in the towel. Yeah,
because part of it too is culture, right? So you, the old man in the club and stuff, and then what is your content, right? I could say in country music and other genres, they kind of got some more mature, I guess, that we could label it as. I don't know how to label it. Subject matters, right? But if you just like, I'm hanging out on the block, get money, fucking these hoes at 45, come on. If you're going to break through, come on, break through doing something else, I guess, or talking about something else is kind of what I'm saying. But if that's what we see is the only way to get in, the image of you and your content is not going to work. So you need to do some other brand. It's probably just a branding issue at that moment where you're trying to appeal to the young people and they don't want no old people trying to dress like them and talk like them. And even if you don't, they don't want the old guy who don't dress like them and talk like them too.
Yes. So this is much to me like, them dudes who think they're gonna be stars and
Daddy's Little Girls, that was in there too. Yeah.
So but the question I have, because he still doesn't want to get a job, so he didn't got the call from them. The battery situation looked like it's really falling through all the way. No opportunities there except what he knows about his invention and it working. And my question is, how can you love a person and watch them suffer trying to take care of you and you don't contribute?
There may be that part of that. I just know, and believing in something that's basically failed, right? It all sounds good in the end, and you always hear the story. He always knew that he would make it. Everybody believed they would make it, right? And some people, you just got lucky, I guess, because luck is a big part of it.
Because everybody who believed that they were going to make it didn't.
Yeah, most people who believed didn't, right? So he just, it's genius if that luck strikes, right? And otherwise, you just a no good nigga. He's just like, I'm going to make it. This battery is going to sell. And that maybe it has to do with, what do they call it? Some social, emotional, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, your emotional IQ.
Yeah, your emotional IQ. So I don't know though.
Yeah, I just think you're right about that. Like, you got to have your finger on the pulse. But I also feel like, man, if you love a person, isn't that just natural that you don't want to see them suffer? Like, isn't that just natural? And she's clearly suffering and he's just oblivious and still won't get his but a job. So,
but we know how she is.
Yes. So the sisters then bust in, not that long as the movie's going on. The sisters bust in and then they talk about how the house is now being foreclosed on because they didn't know she had mortgaged the house. Now the house is about to be foreclosed on. And then the sisters make this offer so that they can get the money to save the house because they have a business. So they're like, okay, we can get an advance on some money, but we needed Robert to be the delivery driver, blah, 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 And so he was mad at Melinda because and asked why she didn't defend him when they confronted about the situation. Bro, you got the situation where she's about to lose her family house behind you not being willing to get a job. Like, come on. And then he starts sleeping separate from her after this because he's mad. Well. Bruh, like, this is just as unacceptable. Like, Tom, you don't believe in me. What you mean? She done believed in you a decade's worth or more of belief and being willing to work her own fingers to the bone. But like, he's just clearly self-centered and quite annoying at this point in the movie to me.
Yeah.
So the chick that he had cheated with way back in the past wound up watching his videos and becoming interested in what he had been sending them, along the way. And his wife was in, I think at least one of the videos or whatever, she was there. So like, it was like, here's our invention and we are, the Gales and whatever. So, but they impress upon him, the brothers, the husbands of the sisters, impress upon him that he cannot be late for the deliveries because you got to be on time. This is our big client and whatever. And of course, when he's in the middle of the most important delivery in the world, that's when old girl calls about, hey, I got you a meeting or whatever. Get down here. Can you come right now? And so yeah.
There is never a situation where you have to come exactly right now because people in that position, because this is a big company basically, and basically the CEO wants to talk to them. That people aren't available in that moment because they're not always in that specific city, right? But she somehow got him in, is I guess what they're saying, and you could squeeze yourself in if you can. But why would they give him the most important account? You know who he is, what he's like. You gave him the most important account
that they did
of the company.
They did.
If it's my company and I work there physically and it's the most important account,
I'm going to
be the one or somebody who I know is absolutely on it.
Well, and then the other part I feel like is what they were also trying to do is make him work, right? Because he got and I don't think that aspect of it was wrong, but y'all was stupid, like you said, to let him be holding the keys to whether your business could continue. So basically what happened was, of course, he's going to go to the meeting and they are watching him like on GPS. So they know where their truck is at. And they like, where is this dude going? What's going on? He's about to head on to this meeting. And, so.
What happened before that was the sisters found that lady's wallet in the truck.
Yeah, this is all happening at the same time. The sisters found the lady's wallet. They think he was cheating with that lady. And
they just can't be respectable, reasonable women. They gotta in the moment go basically
they go up
to her job and be like, your husband cheating on you right now.
Come on, let's go. We finna ride. Okay, I know some of y'all go to the comments and let us know the stories of when you helped somebody ride, because I know I have in the past.
What in
my youth, yes, I did go. They was like mount up and the posse went and we rode. So thank goodness it wasn't riding for me. But the point is, when you're young, you just do dumb stuff. These girls were older, so it didn't make no sense. But the bottom line is that their business loses their biggest client. They don't get the money for the house. And then basically they're going to lose the house. But Robert is offered in that meeting $800,000 for his battery, right? But he doesn't want to sell the rights to his invention. And he leaves the deal on the table and walks away while his wife's family house is fixing to go in foreclosure. And I mean it just like that.
Would you have taken that $800,000? Because he's like, hey, my stuff is worth more than that. It's sort of like in 2009. When did this come out? 2018. Okay, this is later, but it's based around that time. So if this is like in 2009, when Elon Musk kind of bought his way into ownership of Tesla, going to him with the battery, because battery is like one of the most important things with Tesla and electric vehicles. And he's like, yeah, I'll give you 800,000 and we just outright own everything, patents and all. But at the same time, your husband or whoever, I don't know, your spouse's family home is getting foreclosed on. And you don't have the money. And your way of making the money basically prevented you from getting the money, because losing that account and not making that delivery, it doesn't allow you to get that money. So, he broke out on the job that he's supposed to be doing too at the same time.
Yes.
Do you take the 800K?
I don't, like that. To me, I feel like I would have taken the 800K, but I would have, I wouldn't, well, I don't know. I don't think I would have ever been in his position, because I would have figured out a way to be working and, doing whatever. But then I'm not a man either. And, I don't know. Like, I would just say that I like to believe if I was a man, I wouldn't have been sitting up there letting my wife work her fingers to the bone like that, even if I was working it.
Do y'all agree that we're past that?
No.
Jay-Z reference. But no, we're past that, because now we're at a point where you was offered 800K and the house is in foreclosure.
Okay. So we're offered that. If I was in that situation, absolutely, I would take the money, because I would say whatever, I would have to be grateful for what I got in that moment. And I would have to say that whatever led me to that point, that I shirked all other responsibility, the price that I have to pay now is that I'm going to get less.
How much is this mortgage?
I don't know.
Yeah. It would have been good information.
But yeah. He turns down the 800,000.
Yeah, but the sisters went over and was like, hey, he's cheating on you and stuff. And then he gets home after all this. Everybody's there. Husbands, wives.
It reminded me of Soul
in-laws.
Food, kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
Where you got the three sisters.
And they confront
he probably took
him.
It from that.
And she like, you cheating on me.
Yep. And then she tells him to leave. And he doesn't want to leave. He's like, I love you. He's saying he loves her. He don't want to leave. And the way she gets him to leave is like, she's like, I could be the devil, So ultimately what happens is she loses the house. She got to move in with her sister. She divorces him,
But before that, he did tell him about the 800K, so all the family knows, and they just like, man, you stupid for not taking that 800K.
And they barely believed that he was going to get that kind
he
of
was
money.
offered 800K.
So, but he says that in the divorce, when they finally do the divorce, he doesn't want anything. But he doesn't want the divorce. He's like, I still love you. But then he signs the paperwork, right? And so her sister is so tacky. She is like celebrating her divorce after the fact. And, Robert calls the other woman, the one who helped him, and she comes to get him. And she comes with a check for his battery when she comes over. $75 million.
Bruh, that was
$75 million. And so he comes to her job, talking about Robert comes to Melinda's job, and he tells her that his battery hit, and he gives her a check for $10 million and thanks her for believing in him. He says he doesn't blame her, though, for leaving and all that. And he says that he will always love her. He brought the house back to the mother's house. And so he presents that to her. And then we have what you called, when we saw it, another dinner table scene, where she goes and she confronts her sister and their husbands for basically making her divorce him and make her, you know what I mean? Yeah. Even though she did what she wanted to do, there was high pressure there for sure.
So if you're watching this, you could forget all those little things that he did, and you like, dang, he done reconciled everything. This is a good man, because it all works out, right? Once it works out, then everything is good, right? But see, I think Tyler Perry do that a lot. He takes the woman's perspective, or what a lot of people, would agree with, and then he just turn it on his head, right? And be like, you were wrong about this. But for some reason, it works, because people aren't just all like, oh man, he's trying to change the way we think about things.
He was a genius because he knew 75 million was coming, right? He didn't know that.
Yeah.
He still got lucky. Like his luck and preparation met up to make this opportunity work out for him. And it was really lucky that the woman he had been dealing with, who knew him and had mercy on him, even though he jammed her up in a crazy situation that was a cheating situation that she clearly wouldn't have wanted to be involved in, she still gave him a chance and looked at his stuff. So he was very lucky.
Yeah.
And so Melinda basically, cusses him out and is mad. And then the next thing she does is she goes to the penthouse where he lives now. Now, mind you, when they were dating a long time ago, he had pointed out all the things he was going to have in the future. I'm going to have a boat and I'm going to name it this. I'm going to have this penthouse. We're going to live right up there. So she goes to the penthouse to try to get him back but then boom, her face hits the floor because she finds out that he's now engaged to that woman.
Yeah.
So he is engaged to that other woman, Diana. And her face, Melinda's face, just hits the
She went up there to try to get the
that old thing.
Get the old thing back, and then after that, she just spirals more, and she's just stalking him on social media and everything. But you got your 10 million and everything. Everything is fine, right?
He did everything though with Diane, this new woman, Diana, that he said he was going to do with her.
Yeah,
the boat,
the name
all
of the boat,
that stuff.
all that stuff, yeah.
And this woman was pregnant and expecting a baby too. So that had to be taking her out.
Yeah, the name of the boat, all that stuff, yeah. But then here she comes. She's trying to come back and say, I deserve more.
Yes. And it's funny because this happens like after, he gets his deal, after the divorce is said and done. And so she's like sitting up there also in her mind blaming everybody, but she's still at the house. And finally, her sisters know she cracking up too. And they meet with Robert and the new wife, Diana, behind or her back.
But so was it really after? Because the negotiations started while they were still married.
Yes.
I would say. But,
yes. But they didn't make the deal until after. Yeah. So, yeah.
And
definitely.
I guess, but after you done sold the thing, you should have included that when I would have just for any slim chance that what you said about this $800K or whatever somebody want your battery is the case, then there should have been a clause up in that contract for all that. She was basically the primary investor on that, just allowing him to just be up there and making this battery this whole time.
So what happens is that the sisters have met with Robert and this new soon wife to soon to be, because they're not married yet, but they're engaged. And they basically, I don't know, in a way it's going to be perceived like they have turned against her because they're meeting, talking about Melinda behind Melinda's back with the ex, with everybody. And they know like, hey, she got problems.
And like, how she is.
So the question is, did the sisters facilitate the problems between Melinda and Robert? What role did those sisters play in the demise of their marriage? Would Melinda on her own have just stayed with Robert? I think she might have.
So the thing is, when everything came crumbling down, like when shit hits the fan, who is around you matters, right? And at that moment, everybody in the family was there and they had their own agendas, right? Because they invested in, we don't want mama's home gone, and this dude has destroyed that. He's destroying our business as well. We lost our biggest account. And they were all there in that moment, right? And maybe that's good at times, right? Because you do need counsel and stuff. And then the other time, he is able to just be like, hey, yo, I love you and everything is going to be okay. And manipulate her however way he does it. And I don't mean manipulate in a negative sense of the word, right? He's able to affect how she feels about, the situation. So I don't know, but it does matter who is right there in those pivotal moments.
That's true. That is very true.
Right? Like, so if you need your job and then you come home like, fuck them people at that job, I'm quitting. And then your spouse is just like, yeah, fuck them, quit. But you need the money and then it's going to be hard next month because you ain't got that money coming in. Then it matters who's there at that time.
Yeah. And I mean, and this is, I think, also where like a spouse can, talk you down from crazy situations along the way, And I mean, I just think that that's like what happens, right? There have been times where I'm like about to go off the rails and I'm ready to snap. And then, you may say something that'll calm me down or make me think about the potential consequences, or just kind of bring you back to center, right?
Yeah.
Because that's really, I think, what a good mate is supposed to do, and then the same has been true,
Yeah, I was at this job once and I was like, hey, I'm going to quit, and you told me not to, but I sent a nice email that would, because they had layoffs and stuff going on and moving people around in different roles. And I sent a nice email that would make sure that I was a part of them next layoffs and be able to get the severance and the unemployment.
Yeah. And, I remember us talking about that email and how it, how we would devise it. Because, yeah, when he called me that day, he was at work and he was like, I'm ready, and I was just like, OK, let's not pull the trigger yet. Let's just do this in a way that we come out on top. Right. And yeah, and I mean, it really wasn't that much longer that you had to deal with them either.
Yeah.
It's a matter of weeks, I think, if I recall correctly.
Well, maybe 2 weeks. It wasn't that long. I think I sparked the next round.
I don't know, you might have. You start making some demands
because they weren't making it official, right? They would just like let people go. But then I think, the people who got off with these little severances, was... I think I had something to do with that.
Yeah, well, you were like, look, I want the package.
Yeah.
I don't want to quit and then I'm in a lurch, right?
I know.
So
I better do things right. But anyway.
Yeah, so that definitely, who's around
happened.
you when it hits the fan does
stuff
matter.
Hit the fan. Her sisters and stuff were there and were like, you need to leave that man. And then the separation from that person, right?
Yeah.
So you get separated and isolated, then they could just tell you, oh, see? Now you could just go ahead and leave them. You know what I'm saying? You're not even together. You don't get their influence. You don't get their side of the story. You don't get nothing.
Yeah.
But what they're telling you.
Yeah. Well, and that is like, to me, one of the chief ways that people negatively manipulate other people, right? You got to isolate them because you can't have other people in their ear. You see it all the time with romantic relationships. You see it also even with other types of familial and close relationships. People don't want you around other people that's going to be spoiling your mind for their, for the ground that they lay to be able to manipulate you. So basically, though, we come back to the present, and then the therapist tells her she has borderline personality disorder, Melinda. After this happens, and I'm just going to sum up the end of the movie because it's just so much crazy
That's what I was
stuff.
about to say. Like, we don't even need to talk about
Yeah,
that.
I mean, basically, after this happens, Melinda goes even more nuts, and she go on that boat that is that was supposed to be her boat. And she tries to kill him, and then they wind up killing her.
It turned into about 1999 Lifetime movie.
Yeah. So, and we really haven't talked much about like the movie itself, the plot line and stuff, because we already know it's over the top. But what I think is that it does like promote a lot of good discussions that can come out of this and situations. And two of the biggest things. One is the discussion of the mental illness. And the second thing that I think is out there is what is real, what is the truth, because this story is being told from the lens of a person that we know has been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And we find that out at the end. And it's sort of kind of like the way that we presented our fan theory. If you haven't seen our fan theory on Menace to Society, where we talk about that O-Dog and Kane are actually the same person. You can check that out in the description. But it's kind of the same thing. You're watching this film through the eyes of an unreliable narrator. Yeah.
But also, we do get some major things if they're true. I'm guessing they are true, right? Where the battery sold, he came, he gave her some money, and he married the other lady. You know what I'm saying? So
the things that calls into question to me more so would be the perceptions, right? Like, was he out on the take the whole time? Was he like a full-on con artist?
Yeah, but see, I think we could. So if you got one person telling the story, you can take some things as fact, and then just like we know that she bought the car. We know that he cheated with the lady. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We know all those same things, right? Mm-hmm. We don't have to take her quantification of that or qualification of those events.
Right.
Right. So I think he did seem untrustworthy in the beginning, right? The way you set it up as a writer, Tyler Perry. He set it up like, oh, he's untrustworthy, especially with the cheating part after she done bought the car and stuff. And then when you get to he's not working and stuff, he's very bad. But then it's very lazy and easy, I think, to just flip that switch. The thing sold, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's like, oh, she was working and supporting him and he doesn't work. You set it all bad, right? And that is all the stuff that the quote typical woman would agree with, right? This is Ben is taking advantage of her, he's cheating, he's living off of her, and most people, right, would just be like, this guy's bad. But then bam, that thing hits and it was all, he knew
from the
it.
beginning it was all,
it was just, you as a woman should be investing in a man, and just because somebody doesn't work, doesn't mean
you get all of
they're
that
not contributing. And that's how he turned it on the head. But people still come out of it like, oh yeah, that's a good story, because that's how you spread what's called back in those days, those stories, the moral, right? The moral of the story is, there's this investment that may take place, or have belief in your man and all that other stuff.
The moral of the story is get diagnosed early.
Yeah, see, that's where it all goes off the rail.
And then maybe some of this could be avoided. But at the same time, there was honestly nobody checking Robert, right? There was nobody, because Robert was out of bounds, like without a doubt. Now, was he calculated for the rest of, for the entire times? Did he see an easy mark and say, I'm gonna just be with her and I'm gonna ride it out till I, because here's the thing, back to the whole two things can be true at once. Couldn't he love her and be using her?
Yeah. That's the point, right? I can marry somebody who just let me do this and we be together and whatever, right? So, but is the story good without her borderline personality disorder? Because that whole boat scene and all that at the end, do I need that in a story? Like,
well, we've already seen, okay, so this reminds me of like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, all of these thriller, crazy woman and man, because they've made plenty of crazy man, stalker, boyfriend, ex-husband movies too. Like they always have, the climax where at the end they just go full on crazy and they just trying to kill everybody. And that's standard.
That's it's stuff that lead up to that, and that this is this type of movie based on the things that happen there. This one was, there's this story about, I don't know, trust and loyalty and all of that and all the stuff we talked about. But then at the end now, it's just turn it all on its head and she got to be killed.
Yeah, well, like, but that, like you said, maybe that was the trigger, right? That was the trigger. And
what if a movie, we don't live off triggers in movies, right? When we're telling a good story.
What if she just, what if she didn't die at the end, but she was, somehow committed into a mental hospital? You just see her rocking in the room, at the end.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just know. Just none of that. You somehow find a way to resolve the story of getting them 10 million, right? And him being successful and possibly even just getting back together.
Well, let's go with how the story makes me feel. Now, I felt, because that's part of what is a good movie, I felt at times, I felt more about certain different things that happened earlier in the film than I did at the end when she died. Like at the end, and this is how you got good characters, because people care about what happens to them. I did not care at the end if she died or if she lived. I didn't care. It was a lighthearted, laughing romp of watching the crazy and insane stuff she was doing in the movie. And this is why the movie is not a quote good movie, although we can have great discussions about some of the things presented.
And that's how you stigmatize mental issues, right?
Sure.
Where, we could feel some sort of compassion and everything for her, everything leading up to her just being on this boat going on a rampage, right? So now you had this character that could have been very, dynamic. She had all of her emotions and everything that was going on, and people could sympathize and empathize with that, to now you're just doing stuff that we just don't accept really at any level of your mental illness. Right. So if we stop before this and, she had these issues and she didn't see how he was a good man and stuff and how it was resolved before we got to the boat scene, then, it's much better.
What maybe would have made me care if she died at the end was if I had more sympathy for her. But because I had trouble having the sympathy for her because she was acting crazy, even though it was a mental illness, what I'm saying is it was hard to have the sympathy because her character wasn't all that likable. But
Yeah,
now
that's
what
what
would
I'm
have made her
saying.
more likable might have been like if we saw some struggle with her mental health. Right. If we saw the doctor telling her she needs to take this medicine that will help with whatever. And then she's, I don't know, dealing with the side effects of the medicine and she's jittery or shakes. She's like, I don't feel like myself. And he come up and he like, baby, just take the medicine. We gonna get through this. Then I might have felt a little bit better.
I don't even think we need all that.
But I just don't care what happens.
At the moment where he goes to the job and give her the check, right? And then she confronts her sisters and then she was kind of manipulated by her sisters in this. You kind of feel bad, right? She done ruined her marriage because of the input of other people, and she go to the penthouse and see, he done got with the other woman. Then if something happened to her in that moment, you gonna feel it. You gonna be like, dang, that's messed up.
And if you want to talk about the definitions in the word acrimony and all that, you can watch the other video we linked in the description. That was the original video we did on this movie.
That video still out?
Yes. It's maybe, I don't know. I'll link it. The people be able to see it. But what I'll say is just that it's this movie makes me think of, though, he got everything in the end, right? He got everything he wanted on the necks of the people closest to him. He probably wasn't even paying rent at that place where he was with the little trailer.
Yeah.
He
just but
that's the hard part for me.
Yes, but
that's the hard part for me.
Could have been there, but I guess without her,
she gave
personality
50 pounds
disorder,
of flesh.
Yeah. But see, that's part of the thing with the whole going off the rails at the end. Because of her personality disorder, she wasn't really able, I'm guessing we can say, able to, realize that the spoils, right? That
okay, the sister didn't realize. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Well, was it because of that? Do you have to be mentally ill to tell him to kick rocks? No. I think even a person who wasn't
but she wasn't seeing things the way that they really are. I think it's the implication.
Okay.
Right? Your sisters come and she got the wallet of the girl that was left in the truck and like, look at this,
Ladies, go to the comments and tell me if you would have left him, regardless of this whole dynamic of the other woman and the wallet in the car. If just because of him not working, you done put your pound of flesh in and losing your mama's house. Is this the thing? Is this the straw that breaks the camel's back? Would y'all have left? Would y'all have stayed? Let me know. Because I think a lot of people would have left regardless. The only difference in the mental illness to me is that they just not going to try to kill you at the end.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's why you still have empathy and sympathy after that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's because she had to leave him, but she couldn't realize the stuff that was realized in the end with all the wealth that was promised.
She didn't
at the
get what
beginning.
could have been coming to her.
Yeah. And that's where we are. That's why, I don't know, all that stuff at the end. Now, a switch was flipped and now she's stalking him and all that other stuff. Is it a better movie without it? You know what I'm saying?
It may be.
The thing is, a lot of times when you see the end of the movie, how you leave that movie is basically how you're going to feel about that movie.
Well, I remember so I feel less annoyed by the movie than when I first saw it, because the movie's been out a few years. But when I first saw it, I was like, this is some foolishness. This was just trash. That's how I felt. If we had put out a review, it would not have been good.
Yeah.
But now that I can still find interesting dynamics to discuss in the film. But as far as it being a good film, the ending, it feels so much like a soap opera. It's like that kind of over the top stuff. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah, but are the first parts like the soap opera sort of things? I just think it's after she leaves that penthouse or whatever. Maybe is where things go. I don't know.
Yeah. Y'all go to the comments and let us know what you think.
If you made it this far into this Acrimony rundown, type how she is in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out the video that's on the screen right now, and also consider becoming one of our patrons so that you can support the channel on a monthly basis and get access to all the goodies we give to the people who are members.